Hello everybody, my name is Tarmack and this is Feature Creep, a show about game industry news, suspense, and drama. Those with suggestions for future episodes can send an email out to featurecreep@gnomecast.com. If these or the Gnomecast videos are enjoyable or helpful in any way, please hit up the subscribe button up above and I'll keep them coming. I do want to mention that this is an opinion piece. If you agree or disagree, that's fine. Get involved in the comments down below. Make your case heard. There is no opinion that's valid if it's one that cannot be argued. Let's do this thing. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about trademark, copyright, patent law. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so this is just coming from the layman, from the consumer, at least that particular side of it. The main issue that I want to be talking about today has to do with Mojang and Bethesda. Mojang is the company that is behind Minecraft, the creator Notch. He's the one that set all of this stuff up. And very recently, they decided that they were going to be doing a new game, something a little bit different than Minecraft. They called it Scrolls. Bethesda's lawyers had a bit of a problem with this one, being as the main game that Bethesda has is the Elder Scrolls, the main series that they have. Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, these are all parts of the same series. Before I get too far into that example, I want to take a step back and go into a couple of other industries to give a little bit more background to how all of this works. So, say you take Mickey Mouse, and we've got this protected. Disney has this protected, so nobody else can make Mickey Mouse. Also, nobody else can make a derivative. They can't make Mikey Mouse that looks very, very similar and happens to be in an animated cartoon. You can't go out and create a cola drink and call it Pepso. It's just simply not allowed. That's the purpose of trademark and copyright and these sorts of ideas. Now, the differences between trademark, copyright, and patent law have to do with invention versus branding. Trademarks have an awful lot more to do with the branding that is involved, so the logos and the marketing that goes into these things. Patent law has a lot more to do with the physical makeup of something, the innards that are there, the secret sauce, I guess you could call it. So if you're building a sound card for a computer, you would have certain patents that allowed you to do the sound card in the way that you want to do. The trademark, that fancy Coca-Cola logo, nobody else can use that sort of type style or any of that kind of a logo because that's what they have trademarked. Copyright is more in the intellectual property avenue, where you've got your songs, your video game ideas, your stories, written works, anything like that. These are all copyrighted concepts. I think we can all agree that that's a pretty good idea. We want to make sure that the people that are creating things are able to benefit from it. That creativity, that work that goes into it, we want to make sure that those are the people that are being rewarded for what work that they've done. However, when you start to involve lawyers in the whole process, you find that the large companies will attempt to protect beyond what they actually should be able to protect. To take a good example, Apple sued a company out of Europe for designing something called a video pod. Now, the video pod was a video projector, and Apple's issue that they had with it was simply over the word pod. They claimed that the company could not use the word pod because they had trademarked that. That was their property. Now, pod's been in the English language for a while. Pea pods, a pod of whales. There are other uses for it than for an iPod. Unfortunately, the Apple lawyers disagreed and decided to try and push forward anyways, saying that they simply owned that word. Another good example that had ended up happening fairly recently was Facebook. They tried to sue a teaching community site that happened to use the word book in the domain name. This is taking it a little bit too far as I'm concerned. I don't see why somebody who just happens to be the most popular ends up being the one that gets to dictate who is and isn't allowed to use a word. A little bit closer to home is the Bethesda example. The Elder Scrolls is a very long-standing series. It goes all the way back to 1994, I think, was when Arena came out, and then followed by Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, and now Skyrim. These are very famous games, big titles. And what does the Mojang Scrolls have to do with the Elder Scrolls? Well, unfortunately, nothing. Not a single bit. It's a mix of collectible card game and board game done in a computer sort of fashion. That's it. There's no similarity between them at all. So where does the lawsuit have any merit? This is the trend that I'm starting to find very, very disturbing. The idea that a company can protect a word, just one word, not even a word that they created, but one that's been around for centuries, right? This is not new stuff. But because they used it as a part of a phrase, now they get to sue you for it. So what was the fallout of this lawsuit? Well, as it turns out, Mojang is allowed to make their first game with the name Scrolls. And they're not allowed to make any sequels with the Scrolls name. Again, disturbing. Because that makes it sound an awful lot like Bethesda said, okay, we'll let you have this one out of the goodness of our hearts. But now we've got legal precedent that says that you're not allowed to make any more, which means that the next time somebody comes out with anything with the word Scrolls in it, they're going to have a battle on their hands. I don't understand where the logic comes from. I don't agree with it. I don't like the direction that this is going. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it feels to me like lawyers just being lawyers. And the company that is otherwise good. I mean, Bethesda gives away their DLC for free. They're doing all of these updates for things. The high-res pack for Skyrim was fantastic. It's an excellent company. You get a lot of good out of them. So why do they gotta go be pricks? You know, where does this come from? As though people are going to confuse Mojang's Scrolls for Bethesda's Elder Scrolls. And probably because they know that Notch has money. That's the only reason I can think of why they would go for it. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to begin with. And you've got to remember, the purpose of these laws is to protect a creator from derivative works that abuse branding, content, intellectual property in order to fool a consumer into buying the product unwittingly, right? So if you decide you're going to go out and you're going to make an iPad, which is a tablet PC, you got a fight on your hands, because there's a good possibility that you're going at it to try to confuse and mislead the consumers. I don't really think that Mojang was doing that, because the games are nothing alike. And one of the really funny things is, Mojang has the domain name Scrolls.com. You'd think that if that word was so important to Bethesda, they'd have gotten the domain name already. Just a thought. Just talking out loud a little bit here. In the end, this is why I like the indie developers so much. Some of these big publishers and big development studios, they're starting to become a little bit too corporate. You know, they started out, yeah, you've got these developers, they really want to make a great game, and I think genuinely most of the people that work for them do. Whether it's BioWare, whether it's Electronic Arts, Bethesda, Activision, Ubisoft, I think the majority of people that work for these companies really just want to make games. And all of this is very far removed from those developers. This stuff is caused by the shareholders. It's caused by the people that are funding the game. Because they're not doing it out of love for the game industry. They're looking at something like Activision and saying, hey, I can throw a little bit of coin in here and I'm going to make a bunch of money. I don't really care whether they're good games. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to sell the stock when it goes up. Such is life, I guess. Things like Skyrim, Morrowind, Bethesda, these are all really good trademarks. The word Scrolls, though, Bethesda, you should have slapped the lawyers for wasting your money and making you all look like greedy asshats. This is the kind of thing that makes a company look bad. Don't worry, not all of your customers are stupid enough to accidentally go out and buy Scrolls by Mojang, thinking it's the next Elder Scrolls iteration. My name's Tarmack, and this is Feature Creep. The email address again is featurecreep@gnomecast.com. If you agree or disagree, toss me an email, or if you've got a suggestion for something you'd like to see discussed, feel free to send it in. Cheers.